Okay, well, welcome to the year-long journey on Cox Campus. We are so excited to share this afternoon with you all and engaging in some more content from the Cox Campus that will hopefully help assist you in your classrooms or help refine your practices that you're already using. Today, we are focusing on our preschool and pre-K group. The course focus is the power of language, and we're going to do a particular emphasis around consistent routines, rituals, and transitions. So a little bit of a twist here. And just to introduce myself, my name is Lethea Lipscomb. I'm a Birth to Five facilitator with the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. In a nutshell, a little bit about me. I've been in education for about 11 years now. I'm very passionate about educational equity, and that's what brought me to Rollins. And lastly, I enjoy walking, hiking, and binge watching shows on Netflix and other streaming services. And I'll pass it off to my colleague.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shantae Lyons. I am a Birth to Five facilitator and Cox Campus facilitator for the Rollins Center for Language and Literacy. And a little bit about me. Been in education for around 16 years. And I'm very passionate about the work that we're doing and serving children, but mostly empowering educators with all the tools that they need to transfer it over to the children that they're serving. So in my free time, if I can think about some great things, I love a great movie, and I really, really love a great nap. So that's something interesting about me. I love napping. Keeps you young.
Love a good nap. All right, the Cox Campus Way. These are some of our core values. We've got rewarding, empowering, connecting, safe, and essential. And one of the ones that we'll really be leaning in today, this afternoon, is connecting. We'll be connecting with each other, learning from each other, and learning with each other during our time today. So very excited to connect with you all. All right, so Cox Campus. Work from today's session can be accessed on www.coxcampus.org, and we'll be sure to drop that into the chat. You can find our resources, courses, and a community on there as well. And all of this is free, and that's from the support of some generous donors. So please be sure, if you haven't already, check out Cox Campus. If you're new, it takes less than a minute to sign up and become a member to enjoy all of the wonderful and robust resources and videos and courses that we have in that space.
Absolutely. So our learning objectives for today are, the first one, explain the importance of oral language. We're going to dive in and we're going to learn a little bit more about children's cognitive development. Also, another objective is to understand how to incorporate and teach complex vocabulary throughout the day. So that's one area. And then thirdly, we're going to look into ways to develop a no-sh zone in your classroom, because it's really important that children feel like they're in a safe space and environment so that they can use their language. So those are our learning objectives for today. And we're going to go on to the next slide. So here you see the essential ecosystem element fan, we like to reference it as, and these are the elements that are essential to have for children to be really thriving in their environment and really learn at a really great level. So the elements that we're going to look at today is the safe and responsive climate, and also viewing children as conversational partners. When you're talking to them, you're going to be responsive, and when you really engage with them as a conversational partner, you help with their language development. And then lastly but not least, we're going to talk about all these things as we're looking at how to be consistent with our routines, our rituals, and our transitions. So those are the elements for today. So now what you see in front of you is the house of learning. So if you were to think about learning as a house, and specifically when we're thinking about literacy, you think about literacy into two parts. So you have reading, you have writing, and that's really important because when you read, you take information in and you make sense of it, and we call that comprehending skill, right? And then when you write, you're communicating, so we call that the expressing skill. But the thing about it is, when you have a house of learning, you want to make sure that your house is stable. But in order for your house to really be stable, your foundation really has to be on a rock solid foundation. And our foundation here is oral language. So if you look at the diagram, you have oral language with vocabulary and sentences. And so really thinking about that from a receptive and expressive standpoint, you have the listening skill, which is really important when you think about vocabulary and comprehending, and you have sentences, you think about speaking and expressing. So this is really a great way and a visual to think about when you're trying to incorporate a no zone. You really have to have these things really rock solid and in place in order for your no-shift zone to be successful. And it's important to treat your classroom as that so you can provide many opportunities for children to speak and develop their language and skills. And we can go to the next slide. So now, in order to have an ideal environment for the reading brain, we really want to make sure that we really put emphasis on the importance of responsive interactions. And so these are some of the elements of having a responsive interaction with a child is first tuning in, getting down on their eye level, and really getting into their world. What are they doing, right? And then using facial expressions, maybe touch and gestures and child-directed speech. This is all that's needed when you're really trying to engage in responsive interactions with children. And so that's really essential and key. If you had an opportunity to look at the course already, some of this language is already familiar. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat here, and that will be great. Just check and make sure we don't have any questions. But yeah, this is what's really important, those responsive interactions. And then now we're kind of transitioned to the development, the progression of oral language. So basically, when you first start off as an infant, you really are basic with regards to the level of oral language, and then it kind of transitions to a higher level of oral language. So we're thinking, how do children communicate in the early years? And they communicate differently, really, and in more complex ways as they age. So that's one thing to think about when thinking about developmentally appropriate practices and what's appropriate for an age level. They kind of transition; they don't stay the same, and so we have to make sure that we kind of pivot and shift as they grow. We can go to the next slide. So we are going to do a quick recap of the preschooler and how they utilize language. So when I'm 3 to 4 years old, these are some of the things that I do, right? I share my thoughts by talking about activities at school or at my friends' homes. I'm talking easily without repeating syllables or words. We're usually using a lot of sentences at this age, and there have 4 more words. So this is really a great age, and you're getting a lot of language back. But you want to keep that conversation going with those responsive interactions. And we're going to go to the next slide. And this might be really familiar if you've ever tuned into any of our other webinars. This is kind of a review, but thinking about the pre-K age level when they're 4 to 5 and how they share their thoughts, they're usually using sentences that gives a lot of details. And so they might say something like, I like to read my books, right? And communicating is easier with children and with adults. And they're using the same grammar as the rest of their family, typically, and telling stories, and they typically have the ability to stay on topic. So that's really something to know about the different age levels for this particular age group. And we can go to the next slide. So now we're going to kind of pivot. We want you to view a video here. So we're going to look at how they're communicating. We want you to really reflect on what you notice about how the teacher is interacting with her students. And then we're going to ask you guys to share out. So let's go ahead and play the video and see what's going on. I can't hear the video on my end. Let's see here. I'm gonna check our messages really quickly. Yes, let's see here.
underwater?
Yeah.
How am I able to breathe underwater? I don't have gills.
No, we have scuba tanks.
Okay, I have a scuba tank.
Yeah, like in
Okay.
we have waterproof paper.
Waterproof paper, scuba tanks,
And waterproof pencils.
waterproof pencils,
And waterproof rubber for the eraser.
waterproof rubber for the eraser. Okay.
And waterproof metal for the metal to connect the eraser.
So the entire thing. So waterproof pencil, waterproof metal, waterproof rubber.
Nice. Short and sweet and to the point. But there was a lot in that video. Tell me, how are they communicating? If you can drop into the chat just a few things that you saw, I'll pick back up and we will just talk about what we saw there. Because you can tell that interaction was very intentional. And there was a lot of things going on. I'm just going to just pause for a second to see if there's any responses there, and then I'll just go ahead and share. But yeah, that was a really great interaction to see during center time. She tuned into their world and what they were doing. And so when thinking about that, she was communicating very intentional, and there were some words that she was using that I'm pretty sure kind of stemmed from an anchor book, which is great that she's carrying over into different contexts throughout her day. I see Kimberly says they were being creative and putting their thoughts into words. They absolutely were. She asked them questions. Absolutely. And she weaves, I see someone says questions that ask more information. She was asking open-ended questions for sure, validates their thoughts with repeating ideas. She used sentences. Absolutely. And she's repeating what the child said. She sure did. There was a lot going on there, and she was very intentional about the vocabulary as well too. The word that I heard over and over again was waterproof. She kind of bombarded them with that word, but I'm pretty sure they know what waterproof is after hearing it for so many times, right? Because children need at least 12 different exposures in different contexts in order for it to become a part of their vernacular. So that was really a positive interaction. You're right, Brittany. So Ms. Kimberly says, by asking questions that lead them to open to share their thoughts. She was definitely very intentional about doing that. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to go ahead and proceed to the next slide, and then we're going to pass it over to Lethea.
All right, so let's kind of pause in some research here about the deep reading brain construction. So as we know, we're not all born, we're not just born with the ability to read. We don't come out the womb reading books. That's something that we learn over time. And so during those first 5 years of life, that green bubble we see first in this graphic, that is the preparation stage. And actually those first 3 years, those are that most important time period within that preparing section there. And so talking with children, all this talking that we're doing in classrooms and incorporating that tier 2 vocabulary, all of that is preparing children to learn to read later on. And so you want to think about like the neurons in the brain, and those are being created and strengthened through the exposure to language. So really important, just how like Shantae was saying, that teacher used waterproof and bombarded them with that word in that conversation. And it's apparent that that's a word that they've had exposure with, and likely even tied to an anchor book that they have. So being able to incorporate that language, it's building that reading brain. So if children have that strong foundation in that preparation stage, then they're ready for reading once they get into the next stage, which is that yellow bubble and that K5 range, where they're learning to read. And then moving into that last bubble where they're third grade to literacy, that's where they're reading to learn. So we've built this strong foundation from the start to help children be able to have that reading and comprehension success once they get to third grade and beyond. So they're not learning to read anymore, they're reading to learn at that point. So it's important for us in these classrooms to be infusing language, building relationships with children, and building those reading brains.
And then also too, want to uplift the comment, Laura said, reading, unlike talking, requires a new brain circuit. So that's really something to take into consideration. So
thank you for that offering. Vocabulary development. So as we know in our preschool pre-K spaces, we spend a lot of time enriching our children with those tier 2 words and using them in different contexts and using those child-friendly definitions. So our tier 2 words are those rich words with high utility. Those are the words that children are going to encounter in text a lot once they get into school age classrooms. And so those are words like occupied, explore, assist. Now we spend less time, really trying to lift up tier one words. Those are your basic common words like chair, big, friend, nice. Those are happening more so in our infant toddler spaces, so that by the time we get to these preschool pre-K spaces, we're really hammering into those tier 2 vocabulary words. However, we can't assume that all children have this, foundation in tier one vocabulary. So we do need to make sure that we are providing supports for children who may have low oral language development, or for some of our English language learners who need additional support. So it's important that we do address those tier 1 words if we're finding that children have those demonstrated needs, and pairing those words with visuals, using concrete objects, and using actions in our gestures to help bring those words to life, so that we can, kind of fill in some of those cracks in the foundation. And then moving into incorporating our tier 2 word vocabulary, so that children they're developing a conceptual understanding that'll help them later on when they're getting into the reading to learn. And then our tier 3, which is at the top of our triangle, so it's less frequent, but those are like more technical words like photosynthesis, botany, metamorphosis. We're using those in very specific contexts. So we're not spending as much time using those, but they may pop up. But those tier 2 words, those are the ones that we spend a lot of time really intentionally using those in conversation with children throughout the entire school day. And so along those lines, in what ways can you create meaningful learning opportunities for children to learn vocabulary in the classroom? So we want you to use the chat box or use the raise hand feature if you'd like to come off the mic and share with us. Again, in what ways can you create meaningful learning opportunities for children to learn vocabulary in the classroom? So we kind of touched on some different examples, but maybe those are some things you do too, or maybe you do some other types of things in your classroom to help children engage with vocabulary in different ways. So we would love to hear from you all. And I'll give you a moment to think, marinate on that, and then drop some ideas into the chat.
I see Miss Valerie Lethea.
Miss Valerie, using informational text along with stories being read in the room. Yes, so using those, what we like to call perfect pairs. So pairing that informational text with your fiction text, and helping to give more opportunities for children to make those real world connections and get even more exposure to that vocabulary that is similar between those two different texts. We've got Christina, intentional extension activities that provide opportunities to practice the vocabulary words through experiences. Yes, I love that, Christina. So being able to, use some of that tier 2 target vocabulary from those stories that you're doing with children throughout the course of the week, and incorporating that into another experience so they get repeated exposure. I think it's about 12 exposures where children need in order to start using those vocabulary terms themselves. Julianne says activities like the sensory table, house area, block area, so infusing vocabulary into those types of experiences. Melinda, I can model tier 2 words like, may I assist you with, and insert there. Definitely modeling vocabulary. We are the language models in those classrooms as teachers. And so it's important for us to, yes, use those words in conversation with children. Monica said reading books, yes, full of language. Christine says using the many play opportunities, we connect a word that can be applied in a variety of environments. Example word, perimeter. So using that in different contexts. Definitely using our vocabulary in different contexts. We don't want to just stay in one space. We don't want to, keep the words to, oh, we're doing story time, so that's the only time we're getting exposure to this vocabulary. No, we want to extend that throughout the entire day. Got some great ideas in here. For smaller children, I use hand puppets with sight words. Okay. And if anyone wants to come with mute, use the raise hand feature. Yes, we love to definitely pull some of that target vocabulary from stories, and you know what? And playing around with puppetry is a great way to engage with children in different ways. Using focus words from the stories and introducing them in all centers. Yes, making those connections throughout different parts of your classroom. Again, that repeated exposure is so important for building the reading brain. When possible, use hands-on activities to act out the vocabulary words, like sing, float, more real when actually exploring the activity. Yes, those are always so much fun. Dramatic play, engage children in meaningful conversations throughout different parts of the day, definitely to expose them to tier 2 words. Melinda said, I like to name my center areas the botany lesson and have a magic word. So something to kind of remind ourselves to infuse that vocabulary in. These are wonderful ideas, y'all. I'm sure
we have the ladder no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move along to our next slide.
All righty, so it's time to just reflect a little bit and think about the classroom setting. And the first stop we want to begin with is arrival time. So let's take an opportunity to view this really short video and see what is going on.
Madison, you have finally arrived. You know, Miss Evans was a little concerned that you weren't going to be here today. How are you feeling this morning? Good. Well, you look like you're ready to have an exciting day. Are you? Yes. Okay, let's do it.
A really short video, but really action-packed. You can see from the video, the teacher was standing by the front door. She was being very intentional. She's waiting to greet her children in the beginning of the morning, and she starts to engage immediately in conversation, greeting them by name. And, she even said she was a little concerned. You see how she inserted that tier 2 word just in a greeting. It's as simple as that. And so with that, we want to offer you some resources that can help you implement the vocabulary that's tier 2 throughout your day. And so we have some resources here, for instance, vocabulary for the first weeks of school and beyond, for preschool and pre-K, and it provides the vocabulary in the left column area. And then you can see the different areas like arrival, morning meeting, and then it might go to morning transition. It goes through all throughout the day and gives you those examples on how you would actually implement that. And you can get really kind of fancy with this. You can put this together around the room so you can kind of like, use it as a reference. Some friends kind of like to put it in a big sentence strip, if you're trying to get in a good groove. Whatever you have to do to set yourself up for success, we say absolutely do that. But just give yourself some grace and digest this information in small chunks so that you can be successful as you implement this practice. Also, we have 101 tier 2 words in English and Spanish. So if you have dual language learners in your classroom, of course, there's more languages than Spanish, but we want to offer you some information here so that you can use those languages as you differentiate with your students as well too. And then also when thinking about dual language learners, even when it comes to arrival, it's really important to even kind of think outside the box, and you might even want to incorporate visuals to help them with their routines as they're starting their day. So let's go to the next slide. Lydia.
All right, let's transition to morning circle. Okay, friends, let's gently hold each other's hands and sing a song so that we can make a circle. Make a circle, big and round, big and round. Come on, everybody, and sit down. and sit down. Yay!
Love it. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, so we can move on to the next slide, and that is a little sample transition. And we're just going to play this first video because I do want to make sure we have more time for all the other like awesome stuff that we've got to share. And as you're watching this video, be thinking about how transitions can be used to promote language. So let's watch.
Wiggle them, wiggle them. Wiggle them, so. Wiggle them high.
Wiggle them low.
Wiggle them to the left. Wiggle them to the right. Wiggle them, wiggle them. Out of sight. I am anticipating a great day today.
What a great transition during to morning meeting. And so again, thinking about these transitions, the one that I had just done to take us to morning circle, the transition that this teacher just did during their morning meeting, how can transitions be used to promote language? And feel free to drop that into the chat. If you want to use that raise hand feature to come off the mic, for sure, please do not hesitate. We've got Ashley saying, I have used the wiggle them in the classroom and the children love it. Yes, I've used that one too, and it is always a hit. We've got Carenza with her hands up.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just want to say that the wiggle me, I love the fact that it's introducing so much vocabulary, like just thinking about left and right and even using the word out of sight, like that's introducing those tier 2 words, even though it's a transition. I love that.
Yes, thank you for that offering, Carenza. Those were great points. Just the different, just that variety of vocabulary that's introduced in a simple transition just to get children's attention, move us on to the next thing. But look at how much that they're learning during that time. And even with the low and her making her voice low, so that intonation and those gestures. So just all of those wonderful ways that we can kind of continue to build that reading brain. Any other thoughts to share around using transitions to promote language? Let's see, Julianne says we also have a cleanup song for transitioning. Awesome. I remember using those cleanup songs. Christine said we sing a welcome song and then go to our jobs. We sing a song, what was the weather on your way to school? Then our meteorologist goes to the window to tell us what the weather looks like today. And Tamika said the repetition of words during the song, especially if used daily. Yes, that repeated exposure so that children are learning these different terms and experiences. All right, so let's move along here. And let's turn it to you guys. What are some of your favorite transition songs, chants, or rhymes? Some of you have already kind of shared or gave a little preview to some of the things that you use, but please share with us, like, what are your favorite songs? If you want to come off the mic and sing to us, like, feel free. But we would love to kind of, share some ideas here. There's so many diverse experiences that we all bring. So please feel free to share, drop it in the chat, raise your hand.
And I have my pencil ready. I'm ready to write down. I need some more songs in my tool belt. So come on.
Yes.
I got a song.
Do, Janet.
How you doing? We think it's time to clean up to Hi Ho the Cheerio. It's time to clean up. It's time to clean up. Hi Ho the Cheerio. It's time to clean up.
Yes, that is awesome. See, I love how we're able to just use some of those like nursery rhymes or those chants and just change up the lyrics and use it for our own purposes. Thank you so much, Janice, for being so brave to come off the mic and sing with us.
Yeah, my kids are leaving, so I got to keep you guys on mute, okay? I can hear you.
No worries. Thank you for joining us. Let's see, we got Marilyn. She said, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Yes, that is a fun one. Let's see, Valerie said we use Palo Palo to transition to centers.
Nice.
And let's see if we got some other ones. Yes, Janice is a superwoman right now in a PD.
Absolutely.
And working with her kiddos.
And the great thing about these transitions, they really help children really like transition. They tell them what to do sometimes, and so, they're getting language, they're getting the direction that they need, and it's engaging and it's fun, and they're just immersed in all this language. It's really great to see it just kind of, come up in this way. And there's so much. Nathan has his hand raised, so let me stop and let Nathan talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I got this one from Sid the Science Kid, the show, so I got to give credit where credit is due. But it's rug time, do rug time. Come on down, good times on the way. It's rug time, and then you just kind of end it with something. But I thought also about doing that with like adding in other languages for dual language learners. Thank you,
Nathan. Thank you. Oh my goodness, love it. And because, can I say one thing, Lethea? Because he says Sid the Science Kid, I have to tell him that kid is great. He's amazing. I stole the greeting, when he first comes off. I'm looking for a friend. I'm looking for you. Hey, Lethea, show me your moves. And I did it in my classroom, and my kids loved it. They had so many different moves. So Sid the Science Kid, amazing. But I'm done.
No, these are such wonderful offerings, and just the many ways in which we can use and have fun with songs and chants and rhymes for a variety of different contexts, like whether it's we're trying to reinforce skills that we've been, practicing with children, or it's, setting those expectations in the classroom and reminding children of what those expectations are. There's just a variety of things that we can do to play with language and help build brains. And I see lots of great ideas in the chat, but I do want to keep us moving. And
Katie has an offering, I think, that we should really highlight. Do you see it, Lethea?
Yes. Katie said, I feel like I use a lot of pre-recorded songs from CDs or the internet, but this is a great reminder of how much more personal transitions can be when you sing transition songs in this manner instead. Yes, Katie. And thank you, Shantae, for
got your back
highlighting. Yes, definitely. Like, please, please, please. Feel free to use your voice. Children love to hear us sing. They, as you can see through, these variety of videos, they love to have those interactions with us. So yes, use your voice, sing, chant, rhyme. It doesn't matter if we're not singing out here singing like Adele. It's okay. Our children appreciate,
they love you for who you are. And the thing about it, they really benefit when you do it in person from the model. They need the model. And so it's really important that they get that through practice. So give yourself some grace, practice with a friend, and then go for it. And you'll enjoy it so much. And it will be a great, meaningful experience. I'm done, Lethea.
That's okay. And Christine gave us a nice little reminder at the end here, and you can sing anything. Kids do not care if you are off key and not rhyming all the time. Yes, 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 that is facts. So thank you for that last little tidbit. And here we've got some resources that you can find on the Cox campus. And I see Laura has already started dropping some of those links. The first one on the left, we got supporting dual language learners during transitions using visuals. A great set of just different examples. This first page here is about the transition sticks. So using transition sticks during transitions, and just the use of those visuals and props to help guide children through transitions and get used to those different expectations in the classroom. And all of these are infused with those best practices with supporting dual language learners, but also you can, use this with any classroom of children. Then we also have another resource with our transition activity songs. We have some sample activity songs that you can use to transition through different parts of your day. We have it in English and in Spanish, so as Nathan had highlighted when he came off the mic and mentioned about singing songs in children's language or using those chants and rhymes in children's home languages. Yes, definitely infuse those. We wholeheartedly encourage that, and we've got some great courses on supporting dual language learners on the Cox campus. But yes, our resource here has these songs in English and in Spanish, and they've got some song links too. So you can, hear how it goes and be able to make those attempts yourself. And of course, like other languages represented in your classroom, like feel free to honor the diverse cultures you have represented in your room. And with that, let's move along.
Lethea, I think it's time for us to transition to hand washing. So let's get ready. Here we go. Wash, wash, wash your hands until they're nice and clean. Wash the bottoms and the tops. Now fingers in between. One more time. Wash, wash, wash your hands until they're nice and clean. Wash the bottoms and the tops. Now fingers in between. I'm so sorry I had to do that to you guys, but that is a transition song. And if you think about these simple songs, sometimes the simple songs have really great language that you can incorporate in your classroom. Of course, you would really teach this song ahead of time, but there were some, thank you for the clap, Christina, there were some words in there that were really beneficial. And the great thing about it, they have a visual and you're modeling it at the same time. Some words I'm thinking about clean, get rid of germs, right? And also thinking about bottom, top, in between. And so those are some things that are really helpful when you're thinking intentionally about your plans, and maybe you want to upgrade some of your transitional songs. Find the songs that have the most language, get more bang for your buck. Teach that, model that, and the sky is the limit. So that's just one thing that you can do when you're transitioning. I actually use that song myself in my classroom, so that was really great. My kids loved it. So thank you for letting me just reminisce and go back into memory lane. But we can transition to the next slide here. And so thinking about routines, washing hands and nap time, we want to look at another example, because you don't really want to stop with just the songs. You can still engage your children in a responsive way and have conversations. Let's look at the very first video. What do you see? What do you hear?
Yes.
My hands before I eat.
Yes, we normally wash our hands before we eat. And when we're washing our hands, we're removing those things that we've gotten on our hands all day, right? Yeah, those things are called germs. So let's scrub them together. Yeah, those little bitty things, they like you can't see them, and they're all over your hands. So we must wash them to get them off, okay? Rub, rub, rub in between the fingers. We're scrubbing. Remember that in between the fingers, on top of the hands, and on the palms of your hand. That's this part right here. Please discard your trash into the trash can. Put it in the trash can. Thank you. Rub vigorously. That means you're gonna rub them really fast.
I'm trying, even though it's getting so good, but I just didn't want to go overboard. If you guys heard any tier 2 words, or what were you thinking when you saw this video? Have you had an experience like this before? Just engaging in conversation. And did you see all the things that I saw? Oh, okay, Miss Julianne, I see. Expanding on what they said and providing additional vocabulary, germs. Absolutely, she did a great job. And she was multitasking, all in one position with several children, and they were benefiting from that language. Anyone else would like to share? If so, go ahead and drop it there. We are not, for the sake of time, going to look at nap time, but in the same essence, when you are transitioning, you can talk about what you're feeling, have conversation, give children strategies on how they can relax and model putting their hands up, behind their heads, or laying on their tummies, laying on their sides. You can have rich, meaningful conversations when you're transitioning to nap time. And the sky's really the limit, because, the kids are going to really guide you in the conversation. So we will be sending the slide presentation to everyone, so be on the lookout. Oh, great. Thank you, Laura. We really appreciate that. So this last one we really do want to play. It is other than closing circle, okay? How do you transition throughout the whole day and then come to closing circle? What does that look like? And how can that look? What does that look like when it's responsive, right? And when children have an opportunity to engage in a lot of language all throughout the day. Let's take a peek.
Tell Miss Evans something that you remembered or was very exciting to you for today, or something you learned new.
I learned
Well, I remember you doing something though in the block area. You were doing some things, and I saw you with that thing. You pull it out like this, and then you put it down next to a block. What were you doing?
I was measuring the block.
So you measured something today, right? And when you measured something, what were you doing? You wanted to see how
Long.
Oh, you wanted to see how long it was? Everybody give Joseph a hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
Awesome. So there were a lot of great things here. For the sake of it, if you saw some things that's really yummy, really great that you want to share, drop it in the chat right now. But I'm going to just start and talk about some things that I saw. First off, when they were doing their conversation at the end of the day, they were using an object, which was great, a great visual in helping them take turns. Fantastic. So they were using an object. That's a great way to keep it interactive and anticipating, when will it be my turn? And then also, were there any other things that you saw? Because I'll just keep going. I saw when the child particularly, he was answering, the teacher took an opportunity to scaffold his response, right? So she started describing things to make sure that he was successful. So, and that's what it's all about when you're lifting children's language. You want them to be successful. So you are incorporating different prompts. You want to make sure that you're scaffolding things. I see Ashley says, I also like how she paused for a moment and gave him opportunity to think. That wait time is essential. I'm a processor. Okay, kids are processors too. They definitely need that wait time. And Ms. Julianne said the teacher also provided some pause time, wait time, and he could process what he was going to say. Yeah, kids are learning. They're learning to listen. They're learning to communicate and share their thoughts. And so it's a huge process for them. And so taking those little small steps are really essential to make things really go further than what it could typically be if we weren't as intentional about those things. And so, yeah, so she was asking open-ended questions, and you can just see the things that she's incorporating. Some things I want to kind of just bring to surface as well too. When thinking about routines and rituals, visuals are so important for dual language learners, but for children this age as well too. And so even you think about the visual schedules of your schedule, and how you incorporate language. So maybe it might be, you might incorporate a morning message helper to help you read the morning message. What a great way to have a child practice language throughout the day and be confident with the morning message that you're going to help scaffold the process, right? And then have the whole group, let's read together. Think about creative ways to just incorporate them in their language, and so they get more confident. This is great. She helped his friends support him with hip hip hooray. Yeah, he felt supported for sure. I knew I would. Hip hip hooray. Lethea, when I heard you sing, friend, I knew that was a one that I need to put down on my list. That was a great song. So yeah, just wanted to say that. So we have some resources that we want to share with you as well. If you go to the next slide on how to, really create this no shift zone. So there are some things that we want to share, and you might say these are call and responses, and that's what they are, right? And so we have some examples of what you can kind of use. And so there's one on here that we like. It's the teacher says hands on top, and then the kids would say, everyone stop. So they're just simple little, little chants and things. And there's also one on here that says macaroni cheese, everyone freeze. So those are the type of things. Of course, you would have to teach these transitions to the children so they can get familiar with it. And once you teach them, the sky is the limit. They'll know what to expect. They'll do it successfully. And your transitions and all your rituals will really be cohesive and seamless. So that's there for you. So the next slide we want to share real quickly, trying to be very conscious and not talk too much. But you know what? Sometimes transitions don't go well, friends, right? They don't go well. And sometimes our little ones are experiencing big feelings and their feelings. And so we really want to make sure that we kind of just reflect a little bit and think about how we can be responsive to children's needs during those moments throughout the day. So let's look at this video.
Were you sad? Why were you sad? Can you explain to me why you were sad? Could it be because you didn't get a turn to use the microphone? So tell me that so I can understand. It could be Okay, all right. But next time I need you to calm your body because I don't understand when you're not using your words, okay? All right, so would you like to see the microphone? Okay, would you like me to use the microphone and you can sing it to me in my ear? Okay, would that make you feel better? Okay, let's stand up. Can you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth? Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Calm your body. You ready? Okay, can I see a smile? Yay, big smile. Okay, come on.
Oh my goodness. When transitions go wrong, sometimes they go wrong. But you know what? This teacher was really, really tuned in what was going on. She noticed that she was feeling a certain type of way. And she had an understanding of what it might be around, right? So she was watching, right? And she kind of helped the child kind of pinpoint why she was feeling what she was feeling, because sometimes they don't have the words. And so we have to help them, right? We have to scaffold the process. And so that was really, really great to see. You know, some of you all might have similar experiences. I know sometimes transition into the classroom are difficult for some friends. And so you really have to think outside the box on how you can help them be really, you know, just transition smoothly and feel good about their space that they're in and be able to talk about their feelings, right? So that's a great way to be responsive, get on their level. You know, she was encompassing all the great things that we need with regards to the elements of being responsive to this age group. And then our friend, she had a smile. She even had an opportunity, what we didn't see, for her to even talk in the microphone. So she even gave her an opportunity for that and an outlet. So I guess it's really important for us to always remember that, you know, sometimes we might know what's going on, but sometimes we might not. And so we really want to engage in conversation with children to really see how they are feeling. And sometimes when they don't have the words, we might be able to scaffold and help, but sometimes we might even have to incorporate some visuals to help them identify their feelings as well too. So something to think about. So we want to share with you some more resources, of course. We have 3 here, or let me see. Yeah, there's 3. So let's see, responding to children's behavior. That's one sheet that really can help you, you know, draw into those behaviors. Because sometimes the thing about it, every behavior serves a purpose, right? Is it for attention, to receive a tangible, is it sensory? It could go on, right? So we just have to be really intentional. And these gives you some ideas of what you can say instead of saying other things. We want to be more responsive. So we want to kind of switch that light and just try to be on the more responsive end so that the kids can just feel secure in their space and share their words. So, and then you also have, there's an emotional needs chart here. It talks about the feelings of children and what they need emotionally. And some of the things are feeling safe, consistency, support for their attention span. So those are the things where we have to be really mindful about those things and being developmentally appropriate with things. So the list goes on. That's a great resource. And there are in our search Cox Campus area. And I know that we're going to provide links and things, and you can download all the things for free. And then also too, for those times that are really difficult, this is something that's helpful for dual language learners, but also our children could benefit from this as well. They're called descriptive books. And sometimes they fall in that category of kind of like a social story to help children transition throughout the day. And so that's a great resource on how to get started, right? And incorporate visuals and just an example of what that language may look like. So that's that. And I'm going to pause. And Lethea, you're going to take over.
All right. So for this next part, we aren't going to do the video, but we are just going to have a little chat of just about, you know, what are the various ways that environmental print can be used effectively in the classroom. And so thinking about like as the adult in the room, how do we prep our environments to help support children with language and exposure to language, and then also for ourselves, like what types of reminders do we post around the room to help remind us to be lifting language or asking open-ended questions or you know, making connections to the anchor book that we are engaging in for the week. So thinking about your physical space, your wall space, maybe even your daily schedule, what does that look like? or any of your rituals and routines. Maybe there are some posters to go along with it to help children remember some of these, different steps for hand washing. Do any of you use visuals and maybe like a word to associate it with that particular visual? What do your daily schedules look like? Do you use a picture schedule? What are some different ways that you use print effectively in your classroom? So feel free to drop that into the chat or come off the mic, and we'll take a look at the next slide just to kind of see some of these resources that Laura has dropped a link to. So thinking about your physical space, we've got some center signs for art center, book area, just different areas in your room. And we have highlighted some target tier 2 vocabulary that would be a friendly reminder to you as the adult in the room to infuse that into conversation. We've also added into that same, into those same posters are some sample open-ended questions that you can ask as you're engaging with children during centers or small group time or different parts of your day. Another resource we have is Greet Me, and this is a wonderful resource for your morning meeting time. This was birthed out of our dual language learner course, but this is great for all children, but definitely for supporting that culturally responsive and preserving environment. So some great little ways to kind of chunk out and plan a more meaningful morning meeting opportunity. And I see Katie Berry has dropped in stop signs, put them in teacher-only spaces, station labels, visuals for hand washing, picture schedule available for all children by the arrival, cubby area for frequent reference as needed. Yes, I remember my days in the classroom and using that picture schedule a lot. And I had somebody who was the schedule helper, and they moved our clip as we moved throughout the day. And we even swapped out our picture schedule with photos of children actually engaging in those activities. And let's see. And Laura's got a lovely reminder in there that she's dropped in there, and I am checking the time, so we can go ahead and kind of move to the next piece here. And then Katie Berry said, first then charts for crisis times. Yes, those first then charts are really great with those visuals to kind of help support children with, making some choices about, what we are doing next and what's coming up for those folks who have a harder time transitioning from one activity to another. And also checking the time again, let's see, for the sake of time, we may need to skip over this one, but this particular video was just around planning, that planning piece. So what do we do on the front end as we plan, each week to incorporate vocabulary into our conversations, into the different activities that we provide for children. So this particular one was talking about introduction to centers and a new center activity to go along with their Owl Baby story, and about engaging with a particular activity around making a tree and kind of reenacting some parts of the story. So again, thinking about that planning piece, what can we plan ahead for? What are some target vocabulary that we are pulling out from our anchor book that we are going to try and infuse in some of those extension activities, small group, or adding in to our centers so that children are able to engage with those concepts again and again. And let's move along from there. So lastly, as we kind of wrap up, just be thinking about what's one thing that you're going to try out in your classroom in these coming weeks. What is something that maybe you're going to refine after kind of like hearing, some of these different ideas and seeing some different examples? What are some things that you are going to try or kind of refine or change up in your classroom moving forward? And as you guys are kind of thinking about that, we could probably start to get into our bookend slides, because we do want to make sure you guys have time to take our survey, because we do want to make sure that we get your feedback. So again, be thinking about one thing you're going to try out in your classroom, and feel free to drop it in the chat as we kind of move along the end here.
And also, we want to make sure that you check out our Literacy and Justice for All initiative with Georgia's City Marietta Schools or Marietta City Schools District. And you can stay up to date with them as they are putting practices into action with the science of reading. So stay tuned with them, and you can find them on our top area of your dashboard on Cox Campus, and you can see what's going on and see where their progress is, how it's going. If you go into the next slide, don't miss the upcoming sessions. The next one is January 26th, 2022, connecting the dots for dual language learners throughout the day for preschool. So that is really important. It's going to be from 3 to 4. It's going to be great. You don't want to miss it. It's going to have a lot of great things that you need in your life. So come on back. So the next slide, let's see what it is.
Oh.
How did we do? So before you leave us, please take a moment to fill out the questionnaire. We really value your input and your feedback, and this helps us grow as we continue to provide meaningful and engaging sessions with you all. So thank you in advance for taking the time to fill out this questionnaire for us.
And I see some of you all dropped in the chat that you'll try out some transition songs.
Nice.
And
Fantastic.
singing your own songs. So those
Yeah.
and incorporate more non-tech transition songs. That is wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for those offerings.
You
And yes,
are welcome.
out.
This was fun.
Perfect.
Fun group, but we know educators, we like to have fun. We're a fun group. There's a party every time we get together. So thank you so much for being so engaged and sharing your offerings, because that's what it's all about, collaborating and empowering each other. And, you know, who's best to do that? Educators can support each other, and we can share this research and implement best practice and make great change together. So just thank you so very much. You guys are amazing. Thank you for filling out this questionnaire. It's been pretty awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.